Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Serious news about Donald Trump that I think would be irresponsible not to cover. Obviously, his hush money trial is going on and the jury is deliberating with a verdict. I haven't covered that because it's being covered 24/7 by every news outlet in America. But long rumored disgusting comments Donald Trump allegedly made 20 years ago, they have now gone from rumors to major allegations. So I want to tell you about that, give my thoughts. This is from slate.com, and it's written by a former producer for The Apprentice. The Apprentice obviously was the hit show that they say was reality TV featuring Donald Trump hiring and firing people. In my view, it was not reality, and they made Trump look a lot wealthier and powerful than he actually was. And if you read this story, the producer tells you how it was pretty much fake. But I want to read parts of this, particularly the part where the producer himself is alleging serious racism from Donald Trump. First, let me tell you why we are hearing this 20 years later. And the producer is now coming out with it. This is from the producer, Bill Pruitt. The Apprentice was an instant success in another way, too. It elevated Donald J. Trump from sleazy New York tabloid hustler to respectable household name. In the show, he appeared to demonstrate impeccable business instincts and unparalleled wealth, even though his businesses had barely survived multiple bankruptcies and faced yet another when he was cast. By carefully misleading viewers about Trump, his wealth, his stature, his character, and his intent, the competition reality show set about an American fraud that would balloon beyond its greatest, wildest imaginations. And this is being written by one of the producers who perpetrated that fake image and fraud. He writes, "I should know I was one of 4 producers involved in the first 2 seasons. During that time, I signed an expansive non-disclosure agreement that promised a fine of $5 million and even jail time if I were ever to divulge what actually happened. It expired this year. No one involved in The Apprentice, from the production company or the network to the cast and crew, was involved in a con with malicious intent. It was a TV show." So bottom line, this guy, and I assume other producers, was under a serious non-disclosure that if they broke it, you're talking $5 million and possible jail time. You know, you could debate whether they should have broken it and just crowdfunded to pay for the fine. But what he has to say now that the Trump NDA expired is seriously racist. I believe it's true. And I don't know if it will matter given the current political climate. This is from the producer. Trump will make his decision live on camera months later, talking about the process of the finale of Trump choosing between 2 possible apprentices. Trump will make his decision live on camera months later. So what we are about to film is the setup to that reveal. The race between Jackson and Rancic should seem close, and that's how we'll edit the footage. Since we don't know who will be chosen, it must appear close, even if it's not. So Jackson and Rancic were the 2 finalists in season 1 of The Apprentice back in 2004, I believe. Jackson was African-American, Rancic was white. We lay out the virtues and deficiencies of each finalist to Trump in a fair and balanced way, but sensing the moment at hand, Kepfer sort of comes out of herself. Kepfer was one of Trump's, aides or lieutenants that was featured in the show. She's a woman. She expresses how she observed Jackson at the casino overcoming more obstacles than Rancic, particularly with the way he managed the troublesome Omarosa. Jackson, Kepfer maintains, handled the calamity with grace. Once again, Jackson is an African-American and one of the finalists. I think Kwame is his first name, would be a great addition to the organization, Trump's aide tells Trump, who winces while his head bobs around in reaction to what he is hearing and clearly resisting. Trump says, "Why didn't he just fire her?" referring to Omarosa. Why didn't the Jackson, who's the black finalist, just fire Omarosa, who I guess was on his team for the final challenge and was problematic? It's a reasonable question, given that the first time we've ever been in this situation, none of this is something we expected. Quote, that's not his job, Beanstalk says to Trump. Beanstalk, I believe, was a producer or one of Trump's aides. That's yours. Trump's head continues to bob. Quote, I don't think he knew he had the ability to do that, Trump's aide Kepfer says. Trump winces again. Yeah, he says to no one in particular, but I mean, would America buy a N-word winning? I mean, would America buy an N-word winning? Kepfer's pale skin goes bright red. I turn my gaze towards Trump. He continues to wince. He is serious, and he is adamant about not hiring Jackson. Beanstalk does a half cough, half laugh, and swiftly changes the topic or throws to Ross for his assessment. What happens next, I don't entirely recall. I'm still processing what I have just heard. We all are. Only Beanstalk knows well enough to keep the train moving. None of us think to walk out the door and never return. I still wish I had. Beanstalk and Kepfer did not respond to requests for comments. Afterward, we filmed the final meeting in the boardroom where Jackson and Rancic are scrutinized by Trump, who we already know favors Rancic. Then we wrap production, pack up, and head home. There is no discussion about what Trump said in the boardroom, about how the damning evidence was caught on tape. Nothing happens. Key to note, according to this producer, all of this was recorded. And there had been rumors for many years that NBC had this. NBC was the network that The Apprentice is on, and they had it locked up in some vault, this recording of Donald Trump saying the N-word. Listen, there was a lot of people back in 2016 that when the Access Hollywood tape came out where Trump said, you know, I grab him by the pussy, they thought that was fatal for Trump's campaign, and it was over then. Obviously, it wasn't. He won. In 2020, he lost, but he got 74 million views. I honestly, if this was in a pre-Trump era, a revelation that a presidential candidate, a nominee, had used the N-word would probably be the downfall of him or her. In this climate, I don't know. We do live in a society where, as Trump said, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and it wouldn't matter. With that said, number one, I don't have a reason not to believe this producer. A 20-year non-disclosure at the risk of $5 million and possible jail time. Some could argue he should have been braver and just exposed it. But really, the key here is NBC. And we do not know what the contract between NBC and Trump was for The Apprentice. We do not know if NBC agreed to keep all footage that was cut. You know, obviously, there's a lot of footage cut from these shows, private and never to leak. There are ethical questions as to NBC, why they did not reveal this, because this is the NBC entertainment wing, but NBC also has a news outlet. And I don't even think arguably it would be major news that a presidential candidate called the finalist for his show about, you know, hiring and firing an N-word. Trump's response, his campaign, is this story is complete bullshit, and they peddled this in 2018, and it's all the Democrats are scared. I think the Democrats are scared. And this is not an endorsement, by the way, of Biden. It's up to you who you vote for. But I do think it's a major news story and a major deal that the Republican nominee, according to one of the top producers on The Apprentice, and according to him, and it should be easy to verify, there are recordings of this, casually referred to a finalist on his show as an N-word. To me, that is disqualifying for any office, much less the presidency. And to black voters or black people listening, or anyone listening, this might sound like, oh my God, he said the N-word. But this isn't breaking news. Donald Trump has a long history of racism and bigotry. And by the way, beyond the N-word, I mean, this producer reveals that Donald Trump also was just disgusting and misogynistic while shooting The Apprentice towards crew and staff, while leering at a female camera assistant or assessing the physical, hold on, while leering at a female camera assistant or assessing the physical attributes of a female contestant for whoever who's listening, he orders the female camera operator off an elevator in which she is about to film him. She's too heavy, I hear him say. Another female camera operator who happens to have blonde hair and blue eyes draws from Trump comparisons to his own Ivanka Trump. Quote, there's a beautiful woman behind that camera, he says, towards a line of 10 different operators set up in the foyer of Trump Tower one day. That's all I want to look at. I mean, it's not breaking news. He's a pig. Donald Trump is a pig. Obviously, that's a lot less. I mean, it's bad, but it's a lot less bad than the N-word. But Donald Trump has a long history. I mean, for black people that live in New York City, it is no secret. I don't really think the media did a great job challenging Trump on this. I mean, Donald Trump basically called for the execution of 5 black men in New York City at the end of the 1980s for a crime that they were proved innocent of. This would be the Central Park 5. This from the Huffington Post. Donald Trump has been self-funding his bigotry parade since at least 1989. Rapists, thugs, killers, wild criminals, muggers, murderers, crazed misfits. No, these aren't words from Donald Trump's campaign about Mexicans. They're Trump's tough talk from the late 1980s directed at the wrongly convicted teenagers who became known as the Central Park 5 and any criminal then roaming New York City streets. Trump spent more than $85,000 on 4 full-page ads in newspapers, including the New York Times and the Daily News on May 1st, 1989. The ads were published just weeks after 28-year-old Tricia Melly was beaten and raped while jogging in Central Park, an attack that riveted the city's attention. Police and Trump zeroed in on the 5 teens. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police, Trump's ads declared in bold letters. There's the ad. Trump appealed to then Mayor Ed Koch for a city without, quote, the constant chant of police brutality. He wanted death for anyone who looked, acted, or sounded like the Central Park 5. Quote, they should be forced to suffer, and when they kill, they should be executed for their crimes. Quote, I want to hate these murderers and always will. I no longer want to understand their anger. I want them to be afraid. Even then, Trump was known as an instigator who had the power to influence residents of a city reeling from rampant poverty, crime, and drug use. The Guardian this week published a report on his campaign at the time to bring back the death penalty in New York so the Central 5 Park could be executed. And just so you know, the real world effects of what that ad did, here is one of the members of what became the exonerated 5, because they were innocent and later proven innocent, as the real rapist came out years later and admitted it. Here's one of the exonerated 5 talking about the brutal death threats he and his family got to his home.
I mean, you brought this letter tonight that you got from an anonymous person. Could you just read it for me to share what someone said to me?
You know, I carry this with me as a reminder that I can't live in fear. I have to live full so that I can die empty. But this letter right here says, the Lord will punish Yusef for what he did to that poor defenseless girl. And then directing their attention to my mother, you will also be punished for raising such an animal. He does not deserve to live, and neither do you. Folks sent this to us. They sent us letters like this. I have a whole billfold full of them. And it was all on the heels of that ad that Donald Trump placed in New York City's newspapers.
So it's not just words, it's his actions that have long been racist. By the way, if you grew up in New York City, if you know a little bit about New York City real estate, his father, Fred Trump, and him coming up in the 1970s and 80s were executed rampant housing discrimination and racism towards lower income people of color in terms of housing and renting properties. He's got a long history of this. It's not a coincidence that the majority of Trump rallies you're at, and I've covered them in 2016, 2020, not a lot of black people. And the few black people are plucked out of the crowd and he puts behind them to give the appearance of diversity. And frankly, some of the black people that travel around for Trump, including Blacks for Trump, I believe are paid. And I've interviewed them. I don't know how this will play. Trump has made the abnormal normal. He has normalized batshit racist, homophobic, misogynistic, Islamophobic behavior for years, and it's kind of made the media numb. But I don't think the media should be numb to this. And I think serious questions need to be, and serious challenges need to be posed to NBC News. Does this tape exist? And if it does, it is your duty as a news outlet, I don't care if it's your entertainment division, to produce the tape. Because I promise you, in fairness, if this was Biden and there was reports that Biden used the N-word, which maybe he did one day, he's done and said a lot of terrible things about black people, oh my God, the Republicans' heads would be exploding. And to those of you who say, okay, Jordan, but it's not breaking news, he's a racist, you know, don't stand for Biden. This isn't about Biden. It is not my job to stand for Biden or Trump. It is my job to report on them both accurately and not tilt one way or the other. It's for you to decide who to vote for or not to vote for. Maybe you'll vote third party. But it would be irresponsible for any journalist to minimize this or not report this as a major news story. I don't care if Donald Trump says it's bullshit. Donald Trump says everything negative about him is bullshit. There's no reason for this producer to lie. And serious follow-up needs to be done for this story.